I am a survivor of domestic violence. And when you go through abuse, I've often said that domestic violence is about 80% of what you don't see and about 20% of what you actually do. So a lot of what I was going through were things that people didn't see. And because of that, and because I didn't understand at that time the difference between physical abuse and all the other abuses, I had been in a relationship before where it had been physical. So I was perfectly aware, very well aware of what it meant to be hit, and those things that are associated with the physical side of things. But in this marriage, and I always like to be clear that it was a marriage. It wasn't like a relationship where, hey, we just kind of hanging out, we been friends with benefits and, none of this kind of stuff. It was a union that I thought was going to be good for me and my children. And it turned out to not be. I stayed in that relationship so much longer than I should have. And that was a huge obstacle for me because of some of the same reasons that I mentioned when it came to the business side of me, the professional side.
Hey everybody, I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. And today I am talking with my friend, Joyce Kyles. Now, Joyce, she's one of my, I say newer friends, but I think we've been friends now, Joyce, since we've both been doing the work at least a decade, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
actually was trying to remember how I met you. I don't know. I couldn't remember. It's like, you're just one of those people who's like, once I met you, I've always known you. But Joyce is the CEO of Joyce Kyles Consulting. She's a speaker, she's an author, and she is also a certified coach and a consultant, and amongst a lot of other things, which we'll get into. Joyce, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hello to all of your listening audience. Summer, thank you so much for the opportunity. Seems like it's a long time coming because we have both been so incredibly busy. And I do have those hats. And so I'm married and been married almost 8 years now. And I have 3 children and a bonus daughter and 5 grandchildren. So I am a lot older than I look. and and Summer, actually, I believe that you and I met at Woodville High School back during the time when they were having the I'm not having a baby shower.
That's
and
exactly right.
That's been a long time ago. So that is, yeah. So I think that's how we met. But yeah, you're the same way with you. Once we meet, it's like I've been knowing you forever. So just thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be able to share on your platform.
I am super excited. I'm really honored, Joyce, and your children and your husband and I know you'll talk about this in the questions that we'll ask, but I know that is a beautiful part of your So What Success story that I'm excited to be able to share with everybody. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success system. It's my belief that if anyone can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, they can achieve So What Success. And that is success in spite of anything that you go through in life, any of the challenges that you face. And Joyce, knowing your story, you are a So What Success woman. You are a So What Success woman. So talk about a few of the obstacles that you've had to overcome to become this CEO, speaker, author, consultant, coach, and all that.
Oh my. All right. So before we get to the personal parts of the obstacles, I will address the professional ones. Being a woman of color, being a woman who had always worked in corporate America to some degree. My background is in social work and social services, so I've always done that. I came into becoming a business owner from my own personal experiences. And so just understanding what it means to run a business, and being older, even when I was decided to go back to school, to college, I was older. I had already been married and divorced at this point. Um, but I also participated in a beauty pageant on school campus and was the oldest participant and won. So, that's so that's a little known fact of me, because those who know me best know you did what again? so so I'm really proud of that. But I feel like that it was those things that helped me with my esteem, because that was probably one of the biggest challenges and obstacles that I had, is that I did not see the self-worth in me that other people said that they saw. And the more they would try to work with me to help me to see it, there was a real period in my life where I could not, and therefore I didn't allow those opportunities to take hold and take root. So I could have been further along sooner, I believe, if I had just trusted myself more, if I'd believed in myself more, if I'd had more self-esteem. And it's like, how do you start a business? How do you win a beauty pageant? Actually, I've won two. So I've entered two and I won two. So how do you do these things? How do you become a coach and a consultant? And I am a certified life, and I call myself thriving skills coach. And people have dubbed me as a solution speaker. And so it's like, how do you do that and have these obstacles? So those were the biggest ones for me, is just not having the understanding of how business and entrepreneurship works. And then being older, being a woman of color, not having any family in the city, it was definitely another thing. So, having to trust others and trust yourself coming out of the spaces that I came out of was really difficult. But here I am, and here we are.
Here, look, and so I guess I got all of those same ones: women of color, no family in space, and or even in the city, really, and not knowing. Even though I have an MBA, it's totally different than running a business, being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
Definitely relate to all of those. But going back, so on top of that, before you even became an entrepreneur, let's talk about the personal stuff, because I think you're exactly right. When I did meet you, it was at Wooddale High School. We both were speakers. But there, I'm not having a baby shower. And right. You shared your story and I shared mine. And I remember the crux of your story. And I was like, wow, look at this woman and what she's overcome. So share a little bit of those obstacles that you shared in your story that day.
Sure. I am a survivor of domestic violence. And when you go through abuse, I've often said that domestic violence is about 80% of what you don't see and about 20% of what you actually do. So a lot of what I was going through were things that people didn't see. And because of that, and because I didn't understand at that time the difference between physical abuse and all the other abuses, I had been in a relationship before where it had been physical. So I was perfectly aware, very well aware of what it meant to be hit, and those things that are associated with the physical side of things. But in this marriage, and I always like to be clear that it was a marriage. It wasn't like a relationship where, hey, we just kind of hanging out, we been friends with benefits, and none of this kind of stuff. It was a union that I thought was going to be good for me and my children. And it turned out to not be. I stayed in that relationship so much longer than I should have. And that was a huge obstacle for me because of some of the same reasons that I mentioned when it came to the business side of me, the professional side. So by the time that marriage actually came to an end, and by an end, that just means with the separation, there was a whole nother issue with just trying to get divorced. So because there was a lot of resistance on the part of my ex just to free me, so just trying to navigate the system to break free of that after spending years with someone who made me feel worthless, made me feel that, without them, where would I be? What would I do? So all those things that we hear, and that's the important part, I think, of all of it, is understanding the 80% of abuse. And I did not. I knew that I was not in a healthy relationship, but I didn't quite know what to call it. I just knew that it wasn't healthy. And so, just looking back on it now, it absolutely is abuse. Anytime someone is belittling you, prohibiting you from doing the things that you want, need, or desire, and it became an issue with us as a family. So I wasn't even able to function the way that I would have desired to for my children. And that's one of my biggest regrets. It was one of the biggest obstacles, because now I'm in a space where by the time the marriage came to the separation piece, we're trying to figure out where we're going to live. And then I lost my job with the county because they were downsizing. So now I have a financial strain. I don't have any family in the city. I don't want to tell the friends that I have what I'm going through. So we're trying to navigate a lot of pieces. And then you've got children and they're wondering, what is going on and how are we going to make it, because you've got these sets of eyes looking at you because you are the responsible parent. So it was a very, very difficult road, a lot of challenges in that, personally and professionally, with trying to pick up the pieces of my life at that time. And I did not see myself as valuable to them or me. So yeah, that it was a lot, and that's a very condensed version.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that, yeah, it definitely is a condensed version. As I think about the conversations that we've had, and how challenging that time. And you talk personally and professionally, but in other terms, it's physically and emotionally, right? And the challenges that you dealt with that and overcoming that. Talk about some of the ways that you did, Joyce. How did you overcome the physical and the emotional, and even the personal and professional of that obstacle?
Well, it was a combination of things. And so I know everyone is not necessarily a person of faith, but for those that are, that is really, honestly, like, I hear people say that, but I promise you it is not a cliche to say, I really just got back into the root of who I always was, by having been raised by my grandmother and my father, and who kept us in church. So even at the worst times of my life, I still had an understanding of what it meant to pray, what it meant to believe, just a spiritual walk. This is not necessarily about a specific type of religion for me, as much as it is just understanding us having that spiritual relationship with God. And honestly, that is what was the foundation for me. After just coming to terms with that and realizing, okay, this is where I am, this is what's going on. If it had just been me, I don't know, I may would have just kind of caved in, folded, whatever, been at Lakeside, I don't know. But I always thought about, okay, I've got this responsibility, I have the responsibility of these children. And if I don't show up for them, then what's going to happen to them? So I just, had to pull myself up, and it's like, okay, you just gonna have to get out here and make this happen, and be honest with some folks about what's happening with you, put your pride aside, and get back into who you are at your core. One of the most important and significant parts, I think, of all of this was having my children support, even at times when they didn't understand that they were supporting me, and even sometimes when they were angry with me, but they still loved and supported me as mom because they saw my try. And then I met a man at a time when I was transitioning out of work, and he was the one who encouraged me to start a business. And I thought, nobody is going to pay me for the things that I know how to do. And so they were hobbies for me at that time, just writing and resumes. And I was doing a number of newsletters, just a number of other things, because I was a part of an organization in the city. So he was like, you could take those things and create an income. And I'm like, nobody's going to pay me that. Yes, they will. I will help you. Just a friend, someone who happened to randomly show up there at the job, who was actually looking for someone else. So long story short, he was the one who actually helped me to get started with a business, and it had a different name at that time. And people would ask me about why I started the business, which led to me sharing about my experiences with abuse and the different types of abuse. And, well, can you come and speak here? Can you come and talk here? Which has led me to you. And that part of who I became in that space, and even sharing that, I was a teen parent. I was 17 when I had my first child, and was, about to a year from graduating from school, and had to drop out for a semester because I was staying so sick. And so just remembering all that, and I'm like, okay, I've dealt with some obstacles, I've had some challenges, but I graduated on time. I graduated with a great GPA. I graduated still with my class, even with me missing a semester of school, I still graduated. So I wasn't new to obstacles and, challenges, but it was just, how do I handle them? So, fast forward, that same man stayed with me, worked with me, helped me to create a nonprofit, which I started, and was able to share more about my experiences with abuse and help other women and men, young men, young women. I've been able to speak to folks as young as 7 and as old as 75. And being able to write my first book, I've written 2 that are Amazon bestsellers, have been able to travel the world. Literally, I've got Paris behind me. That was the last place I went, so just coming into all those spaces. And that man and I got married, and we have been married almost 8 years. So I truly feel like I am a S.O. Summer Owens success story, with all that I've been through. And again, these are very abbreviated conversations.
Yes. Look, you are so what success woman, that is for sure. And so
Thank
Joy,
you.
the second part of the So What Success system is eliminating excuses. So you talked about some of the obstacles that you had, and the victories, and the amazing accomplishments that you've had. In the middle, though, you could have made many excuses, right? You could have made many excuses for why you didn't move forward and why you didn't overcome those obstacles. Talk about some of the excuses that you knew you had to eliminate to get to where you are today.
Yeah. I really did have a so what attitude. Like, I did, like, genuinely, okay, this is happening to you. So what? I mean, you're not unique. And I think that was the thing that I really took in, was the fact that I'm not the only person who's gone through these things. It's how I elected to go about helping myself and saving myself, and relying on my faith, and being honest and sharing with people that this is what's happening to me. And so when I come across people now, whether they're looking to start a business or a nonprofit, or they're looking for life skills and those types of things, I allow them the opportunity, because I know what it's like to be shut up. So I allow people the opportunity to share their perceived reasons. And I tell them they're not reasons, those are excuses. Everything that you're sharing with me is an excuse for you not fully reaching your full potential. If you need more education, let's talk about resources for that. If you need a accountability partner, let's talk about resources for that. There are resources for everything. Now, everything may not be overflowing in resources, but I have made it my personal business that, depending on what a person shares with me, I really try my best to go out of my way to connect them with someone that can help them and guide them. And then I also let people know, this is as far as I can go with you. You have to be willing and committed to do the rest, so that you can eliminate those excuses that you're presenting. Now, if you have a legitimate reason, if you've developed some type of illness or something, those extenuating circumstances. But even in that,
yes,
what can we do with the time that you have? Because time is precious. The healthiest of us can transition at any time. So whatever it is that you've gone through, if I've been through poverty, Okay, I can tell you about the resources and the ways in which to get something to eat, but I can also tell you there's going to be some challenges because sometimes people in social services are not so nice to you. They want to know, why is it that you're in this position and you shouldn't be that way? I'm speaking from experience because that is exactly what happened to me. You have a college degree. You shouldn't be down here trying to get food stamps. This is my situation. That's what I needed. So sometimes that meant I could have used that as an excuse and just said, well, this is nothing I can do. Or I could exercise my right to ask for a supervisor, which is what I did. So it's all about in educating yourself to get where it is that you're trying to go. And to the point that you made in the very, very beginning, I truly believe if you have the right mindset, have the right spirit, the right heart, an openness to be coachable and to listen and not just always be heard, but also to listen. The sky is the limit. The opportunities are there. There are people who can help you at every turn because someone has been through what you have been through and they've made it to the other side. And that is the one thing that I am the proudest of, that people often seek me out for my services because I focus on the aftermath. I focus on the what's next. Now what? I left this situation. Now what? That is me. And I try to approach that with everything that I do, that for every problem, there is a solution. You just have to be willing to be open enough to find it or to connect with people.
That's the truth. And, and I think that's probably why when I met you, we were like, oh, I've been knowing you forever. Because our spirits did. Our spirits they know each other. They've been knowing each other because that's exactly what So What's about. And the little bottom, the so now what?
Yes.
So now what? Okay. Yeah, all those are, this is true, this is fact, this is messed up, this is unfair.
Right.
Now what? How do we move forward from that? So I couldn't agree even more anymore. So the last part of So a Success System is calculating choices. And so Joyce, throughout your life, you made a lot of calculated choices, even going back to the situation and leaving your abusive relationship. Talk about some of the calculated choices you made along your journey.
Calculated choices. Some were sporadic, so let's be honest, some of them were like, okay, this is what I'm gonna have to do. But calculated was knowing that it was time to leave. And even though it wasn't going to be pretty, and we weren't completely sure about, again, where we were going to live or how we were going to move around. Oh, because also I'd had a car wreck. So then I'm without transportation. And if you are in Memphis or know anything about the Memphis transit system, it needs a lot of work. So just working to be strategic in who I connected with and not allowing everybody to know everything that was going on with me, but at the same time, allowing certain people in. And that was, for me, that was very strategic and very calculating in that decision. With looking at going back to getting a business degree, not degree, but certification, and even going to Cornell University and getting a women's entrepreneurship certification. I just completed that a few months ago too. So, but that was calculated. That was calculated because I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to have this business, but I am a minority woman-owned business. So what things can I do to enhance that so that I can make myself more marketable, especially when you're at a place where you're starting over in some spaces, because, I'm not ashamed to say I'm 50 plus at this point. And so,
because you look amazing.
Bless you, bless you, bless you. So, it's kind of like a second season of sorts. So, that can be intimidated, but at the same time, that was a calculated decision too. Do I want to continue to try to work for other people, or do I want to take the skill sets that I have and use them to work for myself? And I've chose the latter. So just being mindful about my circle. I have changed my circle. That was a calculated decision to do as well. So I try to be strategic. I try to be calculated. I try to be in prayer and walk in that space. And most of all, to be the person that I want from other people. Like, I want to be able to practice reciprocity with that. So I want to be able to rely on individuals, but I want them to also be able to rely on me. So that is very intentional and calculated in terms of who I share what with. I think it's important that we are open people, but I also think there are times where we need to be guarded. And so that is what I look at in the decisions that I've made, in the decisions I'm currently making.
And it takes wisdom, right? And the experiences that you've gone through in your life have given you the wisdom to have that discernment of knowing
Yes.
who and when and how much to share. And I totally get it, totally understand. And I respect that. And I'm honored that I am someone that you share a lot with. And and that's also why I love and admire you and see the strength and the beauty and super excited to be sharing your story. So, and again, we would have to have this interview would have to be like at least a 24-hour interview in order to share it all. But
and then we still be scratching the surface.
Exactly. But we can hit the highlights. So with the SOA Success story or SOA Success system, learning how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, you can create SOA Success. And Joyce, you are a SOA Success woman for sure. What is your personal definition of success?
That definition has changed over time. So that would be what I would say to individuals. What success to me now is being comfortable in my own skin, being comfortable with establishing and maintaining boundaries, being able to say no, being able to say yes, being comfortable with that, being comfortable with fear of failure as well as fear of success. That's where I am now. There was a time when success was just going through the day without crying, you
Wow,
know. So I can remember that success is owning my vehicle when I didn't have one. You know, success is going into my kitchen and pulling down the plates that I wanted to have and the cookware that I wanted to have. You know, I think success is different for everyone. So it's not always been about tangibles for me. And I know a lot of times when we think of success, we equate it to tangibles. But for me, success is peace. It's peace in doing what I do. It's peace in knowing that I am helping others while simultaneously helping myself. That success is earning an income, doing what you love. I'm in a good place and I'm enjoying my life. Success was when we met really quickly. When you and I met, I had walked. I lived out on State Line. And, you know, we were at Wooddale. So I was walking from State Line and Riverdale, walking to Kirby Middle School, thinking that that's where I was supposed to be speaking. Wow. And you know how far that is. So I just about made it to Kirby and I realized, oh my God, I'm nowhere near Wooddale and I am walking. And I just was in tears. And this guy drove by me and asked me where was I going. He was driving a pickup truck. He allowed me to get on his truck. So I sat in the back of his truck, like not in back seat, like I'm sitting up, yeah, in the bed. And that's how I got to Wooddale. So when you talk about the excuses, no, there was something that I was told to do with my story. And I had already said I was going to be there. So I couldn't call Tiffany and tell her, you know, hey, I can't come, because I was embarrassed for one. And then two, I'd make this commitment and I try so hard to be a person of my word. So yeah, that's success to me. And because I did that, someone who was there walked up to me and she said, you know, I don't know you. I don't know anything about your story, just nothing. But God told me to give you this. And she gave me $100. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is why I was supposed to come. So when you talk about excuses, there are none, but success is infinite. You know, it is from here to infinity with that. But I wanted to share that because as we were walking out, she was walking me to my car, so she thought. And I kept trying to go. And she says, well, I just want to make sure you're in your car okay. And I'm like, ma'am, I don't have a car. And she says, well, how did you get here? So I told her, she took me home. So when you talk about success, those are success stories to me. And those are things that you can't buy. Those are tangible experiences that I will forever cherish. And it's what helps me to be who I am.
Wow, Joyce. I'm so glad you shared that. I'm so glad you shared that. And it's just beautiful because it's true testament to who you are, what you do, and your commitment, but for real, for your heart is being there and sharing your story. And it makes me even more excited to know you, for one, and then how happy and successful in all ways that you are now. Thank you for the challenges that you overcame. And that story is just one story that represents, I know, so much more in your life. And wow, I had no idea. Even that day, and speaking to you, and I know that's really going to encourage somebody that's watching this. And I love what you said. And it's like, there are no excuses. There are no excuses. It's just a matter of choices and making the right choices, and not even always the right choices, but making choices.
Right.
Can help you to move forward or learn a lesson. Joyce, okay, so here's my last question for you. You've been dropping some beautiful gems the whole time we've been talking, but what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone watching this who maybe has some excuses? They definitely have some obstacles, they have some challenges, but they're probably making a lot of excuses. What piece of advice would you give somebody who wants to be successful in spite of those challenges?
Believe that you can. Believe that you can. I don't care how many can'ts, that come into play for you. I always say can is actually a contraction. You have to add the apostrophe and the T to it. So, if you believe you can, then you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. So have the mindset that you can. But if you find that you're struggling with that, have the courage to reach out to at least one person and tell them what you're going through, what you're dealing with, what your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations are. I pray that one person that you elect to share that with turns out to be someone that will help to get you where you're wanting to go. But if you have no one, there's at least two people right here. If you have no one, there's at least two of us. And to pray, sometimes it's good to have people that you can talk to. And then there are other times when there's that midnight hour where you have no one to talk to. That's when you can pray.
I love it, Joyce. I love it.
Oh, I said sometimes you just have to find ways to just pray and encourage yourself. And that's one of the things that I wrote about in the book, that sometimes you just feel so low that you feel like you can't get up. But if you just have a little bit of faith and you make the decision to reach out to just one person, that one person will make a difference. Had I not gone to that event, I wouldn't have gotten $100, but I wouldn't have met you either.
And I wouldn't have been blessed to meet you either. And be blessed by hearing your story.
Thank you.
And I love it. I love it, Joyce. Those are all great bits of advice. I'm really just reflecting, and that's why I love doing these interviews, because no matter how well you know a person, you can get to know them a little bit better. And Joyce, I love you and I admire you. I admire your strength. And I love how you are using your life and your story to change the lives of other people's and to change the world. Thank you so much.
Same to you. I could just take everything you said and reverse it to you, because I have learned a lot from you and watching you and thinking about what I do in advocacy and just what it means to run an organization, what it means to run a business, getting out here and helping people. Like, I have admired you from the time that I met you and you sharing your story. And I have talked about you to lots of folks over the years and wishing that I'd had the wisdom that you did at such a young age, but here we are, this is how we tell our stories and how we help others to heal. But I could just as easily say the same of you. So thank you.
That means everything to me, Joyce. That means everything. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too, dearly, dearly.